Hello and good evening. Welcome to your Wednesday evening instalment of SPTV live from the UK here in London. My name is Apostate Alex. For those of you who don't know me, I used to be the Director of Public Book Sales at the Church of Scientology in London, and now I speak about my experiences. I give other people a platform to do the same, and I'm also working on trying to talk about and make more public knowledge the activities and things that go on with the Church of Scientology here in the UK, in Europe, and in the Commonwealth through my blog at Scientology Business. Now that's the introduction out of the way. Let's get into the main meat of today's video. Yesterday, I broke the news that the IAS event is coming back. It is happening next month here in the UK. For those of you who don't know, the IAS is the International Association of Scientologists. The IAS event is one of the biggest, if not the biggest, event in the Scientology calendar. It used to happen every year at St Hill Manor, which is Scientology's UK headquarters down near East Grinstead in Sussex. It was all kind of put on hold. The last time it happened was 4 years ago in 2019. And since then, David Miscavige, the leader of the church, has been holding events over in the US from their headquarters at Flag in Clearwater, Florida, and also, hosting events over in LA as well. There are other big headquarters in America. So they've been streaming those events to orgs around the world instead of holding a big event like the IES used to do every year at East Grinstead. Now, the IS event is an international event. It is happening here in the United Kingdom. It generally always has, but Scientologists are expected to attend this from all over the world. I spoke a lot about this yesterday, and I broke the news. There was a leak. I was sent the poster for the event yesterday by somebody currently under the radar in Scientology. And they confirmed that the event is happening 3rd till 5th of November 2023 at St Hill. And the expectation is that David Miscavige will be there in person. Now, I want to clarify something first, and that is that the church hasn't officially announced that David Miscavige will be there in person. They also haven't even announced that the event is happening at St Hill. They have kept very quiet about this, and they likely will. I would be very surprised if they came out with a statement confirming whether Dave Miscavige will be there in person or not. However, the IS event is always held by David Miscavige. It has always been held and hosted by him at St Hill in Sussex in the United Kingdom. And it would be very surprising for the event to go ahead here in the UK without David Miscavige. It is a milestone, keystone event in the Scientology calendar. And it's really important for the IES and for Scientology. The under the radar person who sent me the poster made a very good point yesterday when they were speaking to me. And they said the IES is the biggest money-making event for Scientology in their calendar every year. It is a huge money earner, and that means it is hugely important. And David Miscavige obviously is very aware of how important money is to him and to Scientology, and he's going to go where's going to make him the most amount of money. So I personally believe that this person who's the source inside Scientology is correct, and they're right. They also confirmed the rumor and the expectation in Scientology at the moment is that David Miscavige will be there in person. But as I said, these are just rumors. We can't promise or guarantee it. But I would be very surprised if the event went ahead without him, or if he was to, video stream in or something like this. For those of you wanting to read more and find out about this event, you can head to my website, scientologybusiness.com, where I wrote an article about the leak that occurred yesterday, and also included the poster. So this here is the poster that confirms the 3rd till the 5th of November 2023 at St Hill is what we can expect for the IES event. This is a picture of David Miscavige. It's important to note David Miscavige has not left the country. As far as we can tell, he's not left the United States for a couple of years. And this is where I wanted to bring in another piece of news today. Tony Ortega, the journalist who has been reporting on Scientology for the same amount of time that I have been alive on this planet, he wrote an article about the leak yesterday, and it was published today. So firstly, Tony, if you're watching, thank you so much for the shout out. Guys, I would highly recommend going to subscribe to the Underground Bunker. Tony Ortega has got his finger on the pulse, and he does report on a lot of the goings on of Scientology in terms of news and events. Now, in his piece that went live today, he talks about the leak. This is my name, this is me. I reported the flyer and so on, and he interviewed Mike Rinder. Now, I wanted to just bring this up and talk about it a little bit. Mike Rinder, who used to be the spokesperson for Scientology and has since left and now speaks out. He was a big part of the Aftermath show with Leah Remini, and he's been championing the suppressive people and people going against Scientology for decades. Now, Tony Ortega interviewed Mike Rinder, and this is what he said. He said, St. Hill is a much more controlled environment than any other venue. So this is actually one thing to note. David Miscavige is on the run. He is currently under a grand jury investigation, and there are multiple lawsuits being filed against him. Now, in the United States, in order for somebody to stand trial or to be a party to a legal case, they have to be served the legal papers. They have to be presented and given the documents that say, that notify the person you are involved in a lawsuit. Now, there is a whole process involved in officially serving someone legal papers in the United States, and David Miscavige has been avoiding these process servers, as they say in the States, for a very long time, and he has avoided being served. In one of the cases, it was ruled that he was served by default, but that case went to arbitration anyway. And there are a number of other cases. He actually avoided process servers by, I think, 28 times last year in one of those lawsuits. So he's doing everything he can, flicking between different Scientology premises and hiding in different offices and so on that Scientology own in LA and in Florida. So nobody really knows where David Miscavige is at any one moment in time. So it's a very bold move for him to fly across the globe from the US to the United Kingdom for an event that will be taking place on a known date, because that identifies where David Miscavige will be in the future, at a moment in time in the future. Now, one thing to note, that it is completely possible they intended this news to stay under the radar and did not realize it was going to get leaked to the likes of me and Tony Ortega and everyone else that's reported on this. So it could just be that they are very bad at keeping these secrets and genuinely just didn't think it was going to leak. But also, it's something that's important to note, that he can get in and out of the country and attend the event and stay on private premises away from the press and away from process servers quite easily. Now, this is the little backstory I wanted to give before talking about what Mike Rinder said. So St. Hill is much more controlled environment than any other venue. He just has to get from his private jet. Hold on, let me zoom in. Do this for you. He just has to get from his private jet landing into a vehicle and then drive onto the grounds at St. Hill. When I flew there on Tom Cruise's plane with him, we landed at Farnborough, which is a private jet airport that has no direct public access, and you get cleared and drive the vehicle up to the plane. Now, this is one thing to note. David Miscavige has access to a number of private jets. It's not like he's going to be booking a ticket on British Airways to fly from Clearwater or Tampa in Florida over to the UK. And, even if he goes first class and gets some more privacy, it's not how he's going to travel. He has access to Grant Cardone's private jet. He has access to Tom Cruise, John Travolta, and large number of celebrity Scientologists have means of discreetly traveling around the world, and people may or may not know David Miscavige can move around without it being public knowledge. So it is possible for him to book a private jet if he's not already here. It is entirely possible David Miscavige is already in the United Kingdom. Now, once he is on the St. Hill estate, he's going to be very hard to track down because St. Hill is quite a large group and collection of buildings. There are offices and so on. And that's another thing I wanted to bring up. One of you guys that were watching this actually left a very interesting comment. Somebody who lives near St. Hill Manor in East Grinstead said the following: I work in East Grinstead. There is a lot more activity than normal in the area. I was wondering when the IAS event was going to take place. I drive past St. Hill often and you hardly see anyone, but lately it's gotten busy. I work near their central warehousing, which I don't know if many people even knew existed. It's in an industrial estate near Felbridge, and there have been a lot of comings and goings from there as well. Many secrets. Now, this is really important to note because this is on the boots on the ground information from somebody who is currently there in East Grinstead. I have attempted to seek whether information on whether the tent has been built yet, because the IS event always happens in a massive tent that is constructed out the back of St. Hill and the castle on their grounds. They are going to go and find out for me. I actually live in London, which is a little bit of a distance away from East Grinstead. It is possible for me to get down there, but it's not round the corner, so I can't just pop in a car and go have a look. But someone who is on the ground there is going to do that for me, and I'll report back as soon as I can. But it's interesting to note there is a lot more activity to note around Scientology buildings in the UK at the moment than there would normally be. Now, I wanted to share a bit more information about the central warehouse building that he mentioned. This, as far as I can tell, has never been reported on before. This is a building that a lot of people don't even know exists here in the UK. It's one of Scientology's secret buildings down in East Grinstead. Now, when I say secret, it's not that secret because the address of this building is actually listed on the Land Registry, which is a publicly available government document. It is possible to see Scientology's list of buildings that they own and operate from. And there is also a sign on the building, so it's hardly hidden, but it's not a public building. It's not something that everybody knows about. So this here is the Sea Org Central Warehouse in East Grinstead. It's actually in a town called Felbridge, just outside East Grinstead. And you can see here, there is actually a logo. That's the Sea Organization logo. And it says on the building, Church of Scientology Central Warehousing. Now, this building is where they keep a lot of the pre-clear folders, ethics folders, files, and that sort of thing. As you can see, it's storage, it's archiving. It's not a publicly available, church that you can walk into and go and join Scientology. But this is where they keep a lot of data and information. And this is what the guy who lives in the area said, that there has been more activity here than normal, which I just think is very telling. And this is not the sort of stuff you would expect to see if the IES event was not happening, or indeed if it was happening on a smaller scale and David Miscavige was beaming in over video link, as some people have suggested. Why would there be such an increase in activity at buildings like this if David Miscavige wasn't about to show up? Because Scientologists around the world are going to want everything to be perfect for David Miscavige if he was to show up. He's like the Pope of Scientology, so everything needs to be perfect. So that's Tony Ortega's blog. I will put a link to the description down below. Again, if you want to find out more about the IS event, I will be putting a link to that down below as well for my Scientology business website. Now, I also want to paint a picture of exactly what this means for David Miscavige and for Scientology. Now, a few months ago, before I started my channel, Mark Headley on the channel Bone for Good did a stream, and I asked him a question about what these event budgets are like. I mentioned earlier it's the biggest money-making event for Scientology, and it is a huge event in the calendar for every year for Scientologists. Mark Headley used to work on these events in the event production and audio-visual department. And I asked him a question on stream 6 months ago. I spent some time today trying to dig it out, and I found the clip where he answers. Now, this is one thing to note. These events usually are huge. They are the biggest events in Scientology every single year, especially the IS event. Mark Headley is talking here about when he was working on these events in the 1990s. That's 30 years ago. The event budget since then has more than likely increased because the events have grown, they have become bigger, they have become larger, more people are expected to come, and therefore more money is spent on them. So please understand the figures he is talking about here are not accurate as of today, and the as of today figures are very likely to be much, much higher. So this is how much Mark Headley says is normally spent on these events.
Alexander Barnes Ross, thank you. She's a frequent flyer. Mark, what was the average event budget?
Firstly, he said she. I think he knows now that I'm a he. This is before I started speaking out. Slip of the tongue, no problems, Mark. Tell me if you can't hear this, by the way, guys, in the chat.
Like how much do they spend on an IS event production? They used to have lasers, etc. Yeah, we did pyro, we did lasers, we did flag bearers, dancers, musicians, rock concert type openings. We did all that kind of stuff. I would say an IAS event used to run anywhere from, it depends. I mean, when I was doing them in the 90s, they weren't as big as they are now. And we weren't spending that much as they are now. But we would spend on an IAS event, I would say event like video, stage, costumes, makeup, talent, musicians. I would say all in maybe anywhere from $500,000 to $750,000 an event for an IAS event. And that's getting all the crew to England, flights, all that. And that doesn't include David Miscavige. David Miscavige is going in a private jet, or he's going he's chartering a plane or whatever he's doing. And that's a whole nother, like an amount that comes out of a different bucket. And that could be $100,000 to $2,000 just for him and his crew, to get there and do whatever they're doing. And then in a lot of cases, he'd take somebody like a private Scientologist, a public Scientologist, like a Craig Jensen, who was the founder of a company called Disc Keeper, or then another company called Executive. They had a product called Disc Keeper, and then they had a company called Executive Software. He'd use his jet or JT's jet or Tom's jet, or he'd use somebody's jet, or they just charter a plane. And then I would say a New Year's event could be $1 million, could anywhere be from 500,000 to a.
So then Mark starts talking about other events, New Year's, Maiden Voyage. There are a number of events that happen in the Scientology calendar every year. We're just talking here, I'm cutting it short because we're talking about the IS event only in this instance, but it's clear there he's talking $500,000 to $700,000 an event, plus $100,000 to $200,000 just for David Miscavige, his crew and his travel and so on. Mark Headley also later on talks about the audio-visual component and how they hire a truck to broadcast this event around the world. They do now have Scientology Media Productions, and they do have really good in-house facilities, but they still do like to contract outside work and help in producing and putting on these events. And so it is very likely that this event costs Scientology over $1 million a year. Now, they've obviously saved a lot of money over the last 4 years having not put this event on, but it is likely, Mike Rinder said in the article with Tony Ortega, that the reason this is going ahead is because David Miscavige wants to make a statement. David Miscavige wants to make it clear, despite these people saying in the press he's running away from process servers and he's in hiding, by putting on a very bold statement, a bold event where he is clearly at the helm of Scientology, leading its expansion and doing all this stuff at the IS event. He is sending a message, not just publicly, but to Scientologists saying, I am still here and I am still in charge. That is the message David Miscavige wants to portray. And if he can get in and out of the country quickly, he will do so to avoid process servers. You also have to remember there's the legal question. I'm not a lawyer. I'm not an expert in this field. I don't know, but it is possible that by being in the United Kingdom, process servers cannot reach him because they have to operate in the United States only within their own jurisdiction. I don't know. That's just a guess. I might be wrong, but I would imagine by being in the UK, he is somewhat protected from the threats of him, of legal action over in the States. Now, one thing to note is David Miscavige has been the leader of Scientology for longer than L. Ron Hubbard. L. Ron Hubbard died in 1986, which was only 36 years after Dianetics was first published. David Miscavige has been the leader for a longer period of time than L. Ron Hubbard ever was. So what he says goes. And if he wants to make a statement to Scientologists that he is still here and he is still daddy, he will do that. Now, one thing I wanted to also bring to your attention, something a little bit more fun as we start to wrap up this video. Get your questions in the comments, by the way, guys, if you have anything for me to address on this stream. Now, the IES, the International Association of Scientologists, have lots of merch normally. I used to have to wear the IES shirt when it was coming around, the event was coming around in the UK. These events are streamed to every org around the planet, and all Scientologists are expected to watch the event in their local org if they can't be there in person. They have t-shirts, they have badges, they have pins, and hey, I have a merch store, so why not do something a little bit fun and raise money for the channel to support what I'm doing, because I am completely fan funded. So if you guys want to support the channel, you can do that with buying me a coffee or buying merch. So I have, as of today, started the IASP, the International Association of Suppressive People. It's only a little bit of fun. It's not a real thing. It's not a real membership thing. But if you want to join the IASP and be officially a suppressive person, you can purchase a t-shirt from apostatealex.com with our logo, which is just a little play on the event that's happening next month. International Association of Suppressive People. There are a couple of different designs. There's one that's just got the little icon here on the left breast pocket area, and there's one that has that and on the back as well, and they're available in all different colors and sizes. We ship globally, so it doesn't matter where you are in the world, you will be able to buy these. Fourth Wall actually ships from different warehouses and production facilities it's got in Europe, in America, and in Australia. So wherever you are, the shipping shouldn't be too much. But head to apostatealex.com. The link is in the description if you want to be officially a part of the IESP and celebrate this event. Great question, Eve Shuj. What is IES? IES is the International Association of Scientologists. It is the membership body of Scientology. If you are consider yourself a Scientologist and you do courses and so on at the church, you have to be a member of the IES. You have to pay an annual membership fee. And so the IES event is a big celebration that happens every year, that is organized by and run by David Miscavige, the leader of the church. I do talk a little bit more in depth about exactly what the event entails in the video I did yesterday, so go and check that out if you haven't already. Guys, put your questions in the comments. I see there is a super chat here from Ideal Borg, aka CO Bill. Thank you so much for the super chat. That's really kind of you. It does help support the channel. How much would I cost to book a suite at the Savoy that weekend? How much would it cost, I guess, is what you would say. That is a really good question. David Miscavige is known to stay at the Savoy, which is one of the most luxurious and well-known hotels in London in the United Kingdom, when he comes here for the IS event. I don't know exactly how much it would cost to book a suite, but we are talking thousands of pounds a night. The Savoy is where sort of royals have stayed before. It is a really high-class luxury hotel, and it is very easily accessible to VIPs from different airports, and also is not too far away from East Grinstead, which is where St. Hill is located. So it's possible Dave Miscavige would stay there, but if he wants to stay truly under the radar, there are facilities at St. Hill on the property itself he would be able to stay at if he wanted to really, really stay under the radar and hide. But great question, CO Bill. Thank you so much. Love it. Great question. Do you think that DM, David Miscavige, is feeling the stress of SPTV and folks leaving, feeling he must tighten his grip, thus the big event? I think that is a very well put comment. Love it. Thank you so much. I think it's a very good point. 100%. SPTV is growing. There are now over 40 creators who are former Scientologists on YouTube talking about their experiences and what it was like for them being in Scientology. And if you include the never-ins and the people who were not ever in Scientology but have channels talking about Scientology, you're looking at 50, 60 channels at this point in time. Scientology and David Miscavige really don't like content going out there that is against Scientology. So they are going to be working in overtime, massively trying to record all of these live streams, write reports on them, and figure out what on earth are we going to do about it. So 100% he is feeling the pressure. And maybe a trip to the United Kingdom for a big IS event is a good way of saying, in a big way, I'm back, I'm still here, and yes, we are very much still expanding. That is going to be the message, even though it is a complete lie. Scientology is not expanding, it is shrinking at a rate of knots. It is the fastest shrinking religion on planet Earth. Cherry Cupcake, great question. Question: do all attendees stay at St. Hill or in local hotels? St. Hill does not have accommodation for general guests. Even the staff that work at St. Hill stay in berthing at a different property called Walsh Manor, which is in Crowborough, another town about half an hour, 40-minute drive away from St. Hill itself. There is a limited accommodation. For example, if Tom Cruise or if David Miscavige wanted to stay in the Manor, which is where L. Ron Hubbard used to live, that is possible. I think it's unlikely because the manor is kept kind of like a museum in pristine condition for when L. Ron Hubbard eventually returns to take Scientology back, pick it up where he left off. So it is possible that one or two people stay there, but the majority of people, even the workers, will stay elsewhere. People attending the event will book up every little Airbnb or hotel room they possibly can. The whole area gets swamped with visitors from around the world. It is by far the largest event that happens in East Grinstead every year, as far as I'm aware. And so it has a big impact on the local community. I have actually submitted a Freedom of Information Act request to the Mid Sussex District Council. In order to host an event of this scale, Scientology need to have a number of licenses in place. I know this because I work in the event industry, so I know exactly what they need to do in order to hold this event legally and the restrictions around what they can and can't do at an event of this size. So I have submitted a Freedom of Information Act request asking for copies of these licenses, any conditions attached to them, any restrictions in place, and asking whether meetings have occurred between Scientology and the local council, the authorities, and what plans are in place to mitigate the impact on the local community. It will take a good couple of weeks to hear back from them, but I'm hoping I will receive a response to my FOI request before the event happens, 3rd to 5th of November. And of course, you guys will be the first to hear about it here on my channel, and especially if you are subscribed to Scientologybusiness.com. Jeff, great question. Thank you. Other than the hackers, have you experienced any fair game from your channel? So for those of you who don't know, Jeff is a Canadian former Scientologist. His channel is fantastic, PTS for life. Go and check him out. We've done quite a lot of live streams together. We did one yesterday, and I'm sure we will do more this week and next. My website, Scientology Business, has been under constant attack since it launched at the beginning of August. In the last month, for example, I have received over 7,000 attempts to log into the back end of the system to gain access and control of the website. It has been under constant attack. That is currently under investigation by the Metropolitan Police through their Action Fraud Department, the Department of Fraud Investigations Bureau, or whatever they're called here in the UK, are looking into it, and they are monitoring the situation very, very closely. But yes, over 7,000 attempts to log in and hack into the website. In terms of other fair game, they don't do so much of that here in the UK because they lost a huge harassment case against Bonnie Woods at the beginning of the millennium, around the year 2000, 2008, something like this. Bonnie took Scientology to court because they were following her and harassing her with noisy investigation, as they do over in the States. Scientology lost. They had to pay a huge settlement and they had to apologize to Bonnie Woods. And because of that, they very much are under pressure here in the UK. And the laws are a little bit stricter around what you can and can't do and what constitutes harassment. So they can't get away with it here like they do in the States. So I genuinely believe they are keeping their eyes on me. I'm very definitely on their radar. They know what I'm doing and they're not happy about it, but they don't do the noisy investigation following stuff in person as much. Now, that doesn't mean that's not going to happen at some point. I'm sure they will. But as we currently stand, no, I have not been victim of any physical in-person following or noisy investigations. But that doesn't mean they haven't been fair gaming me with the hacking attempts and with a number of other things that I can't talk about publicly just yet. But guys, that's all I've got for now. Thank you so much for listening. If you want to support the channel, I am entirely fan funded. So the best way of helping me continue being able to do what I'm doing is to buy me a coffee with the link in the description, or you can send money straight through PayPal, or you can, check out my Amazon wish list if you want to help financially. But the best way, I'm not just asking for money, I am asking for your support. The best way of helping the channel survive and grow and do better is by liking, sharing, and subscribing. The algorithm pushes these videos out to more people, the more engagement they get. So please do engage in the videos. Leave a comment once the live stream is over down below. Please press that thumbs up button and make sure you click on the bell and make sure you choose all notifications if you're subscribed, because otherwise you'll only get some notifications when I go live or when I push videos out. That's the best way of supporting the channel. I thank you so much for tuning in, and please do keep an eye on Scientologybusiness.com for more updates as and when I get them. Bye for now.